If you're looking for some wide receivers that can break out in the 2023 season, I'm bringing you 4 guys that I really believe that you should be going out and drafting in each and every one of your underdog or redraft leagues. Comment down below. Let me know which wide receivers you believe are going to break out in this year. And as always, flogfantasy.com/land, the best place to support what Zach and I are doing here. Articles, rankings, and bonus content that you can get while signing up and getting 30% off. And if you sign up as well and you want to be part of a redraft league playing against Zach and myself, all you have to do is sign up, then send us a screenshot on Discord that you said, hey, I signed up, want to be in a redraft league, and we'll get you in. Once again, flogfantasy.com/land. You get in the redraft league, our rankings, our bonus articles, bonus content, and so much more in flogfantasy.com. So check it out. My first wide receiver you should be drafting, because I truly believe he is going to break out this year, and that is Jahan Dotson, wide receiver 38 in the community right now, and my wide receiver 32, and no doubt in my mind he is going to be rising as we get closer and closer to the season. Look, coming into this past year, we saw phenomenal things, right? This past year, 35 receptions, 61 targets, over 500 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he missed 5 games. That was with 3 different types of quarterbacks: Carson Wentz, Taylor Heinicke, and Sam Howell. Coming into this year, Sam Howell is going to be the starting quarterback. In the start of the season, anything could happen. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett could step in, but even that, if that does happen, maybe we'll feel a lot more comfortable because we've seen Jacoby Brissett produce fantasy relevant wide receivers. So yeah, Sam Howell may be a little bit shaky in the first couple weeks, but that's okay because we've always seen a quarterback carousel coming in to this offense and to this team and producing fantasy relevant wide receivers. The first 4 weeks of the season, Jahan Dotson was having a phenomenal season, catching 12 out of 22 targets, over 152 yards, and 4 touchdowns, averaging 13.1 fantasy points per game. And he scored, or in the 12 games that he did play, 7 out of those 12 games, he scored over 10 fantasy points. He was a rookie here. Remind you, he was a first-round draft pick. He is a huge part of this organization, a huge part of this game plan, especially with Eric Bieniemy coming in from the Kansas City Chiefs, and how he is going to be getting creative and putting in Jahan Dotson in space and clearly making him a priority in this offense. We need to see that. We need to envision that, and that's why I truly believe Jahan Dotson could be surpassing Terry McLaurin this year as the wide receiver 1 for these Washington Commanders. So once again, wide receiver 38 in the community, my wide receiver 32, draft Jahan Dotson before the breakout. My next wide receiver that is going to break out in 2023, and honestly, I've been trying to hold out on continuing to say his name because I felt like I brought him and talk about him in almost every single video, and that is Elijah Moore, right? I think the last time I bought him was a month ago, so I'm really trying to spread it out here for you guys. But if you are new here, I am a massive Elijah Moore believer. He's the wide receiver 44 on Underdog right now, and he's my wide receiver 29. That's right, you heard that correctly. My wide receiver 29. He is my guy. He is somebody that's going to break out. He is somebody I'm truly believing could genuinely finish as a top 15 wide receiver coming into this year. And maybe that doesn't reflect in my rankings here, but I truly believe he could be up there this year with the likes of all those other players that could finish as a top 15, top 20 wide receiver. But let me tell you why I really love Elijah Moore. And if you guys haven't been here before, Elijah Moore hasn't had the history with very successful quarterbacks. Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, Mike White has been his quarterbacks carousel for the first 2 years with the New York Jets. Garrett Wilson comes in. We thought that was going to help, but Zach Wilson didn't really take the next step, unfortunately. So now you think of Elijah Moore, who was a very talented wide receiver coming out of Ole Miss, who was drafted with the very first pick in the 2nd round, who I truly believe is a first-round draft wide receiver talent, just didn't get the opportunity that we all expected him to get coming into his first 2 years. Now fast forward, Deshaun Watson is now on this team. He's now on the Cleveland Browns, and we've seen Deshaun Watson produce fantasy relevant wide receivers: DeAndre Hopkins, Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller. This is the best team Deshaun Watson has been on. This is the best wide receiver talent core we have seen outside of, clearly, DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best. But as a wide receiver room, this is probably the best we have seen for Deshaun Watson, with Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku, Nick Chubb behind him. No doubt in my mind, Deshaun Watson can make Elijah Moore fantasy relevant. Deshaun Watson has been a top 5 quarterback outside of his rookie and this past year in fantasy. And that's, in my opinion, is going to continue and pick right back up now that he has a full offseason with the team, a full offseason with Elijah Moore, gaining chemistry. And not only that, this offense is not only going to be transitioning, as has been mentioned in so many interviews, so many times by Deshaun Watson, by the head coach himself, by so many other reporters, saying that this offense is going to be changing to a pass-heavy offense. And that's why Nick Chubb is rising in rankings, because we see Nick Chubb going as the RB3, RB4 in your underdog drafts, because we are expecting him to get the pass-catching opportunities now that Kareem Hunt is no longer there. But that is, without being said, Elijah Moore is still going to be a breakout this year. If that didn't convince you, I don't know what else I can do to convince you. But Elijah Moore, once again, wide receiver 44 in the community on underdog, my wide receiver 29, and genuinely probably still going to rise in my rankings, which sounds incredibly scary, but I am excited for it. My third wide receiver on this list, who I truly believe could break out and is also a tremendous value right now on underdog, and that is Sky Moore, wide receiver 51 on underdog, my wide receiver 47 in the community right now, or in my rankings, excuse me. And the reason why I truly believe he can break out is 2 words, genuinely: Patrick Mahomes. I think that is what we see in every single person that is on this team of the Kansas City Chiefs in the wide receiver room, is that Patrick Mahomes can make anyone fantasy relevant. Patrick Mahomes can do that. Now the question is Sky Moore going to be seeing the snap percentages and the opportunity that we all hope for? Reports have been coming out saying Sky Moore is the lead person to play the slot role in this offense. Obviously, Travis Kelce is the #1 target on this team. But in my personal opinion, I'll be completely honest with you, Kadarius Toney, if he can't stay healthy, who has struggled with health injuries all throughout his career so far, even when he got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, he did miss time. Sky Moore could easily step in with another year under his belt. I mean, he won a Super Bowl in his first year as a rookie. And I think we can see that happening coming into this year, of him stepping into a tremendous opportunity. Juju Smith is no longer on this team, who leaves behind over 100 targets this past year and 3 touchdowns. Juju Smith didn't have the sexiest season, but if Sky Moore can do a little bit more in space, a little bit more after the catch, then we saw in a better perspective than we saw with Juju, then Sky Moore can easily surpass the type of fantasy finish that we saw with Juju Smith this year. Once again, this roster and this wide receiver room doesn't scare me either. Kadarius Toney is tremendously talented, but the biggest question mark is, can he stay healthy? Rashee Rice, a lot of the fantasy community, especially the dynasty community, don't really see him as a massive threat. He brings something different as a big body pass catching contested catch guy, but he doesn't bring the quick twitchiness that we all expect Sky Moore could bring to this team. MVS is a speedster that we're going to be seeing going down the field. Who do we have next, right? Richie James. We have Justin Ross, Justin Watson. Sky Moore is, in my opinion, the wide receiver 2, or could easily be the wide receiver 2 on this team if Kadarius Toney honestly doesn't stay healthy. Sky Moore only saw 29% of the workload this past year. Could that be 50%? Could that be 60%? Could Sky Moore step into a top 30 wide receiver finish and be a good flex option for you guys? The top wide receiver 30 finish, that is people like genuinely, that is someone like a Deontay Johnson, a Jacoby Myers. DJ Moore was top 24. Zay Jones was a wide receiver 26 this past year. That's the type of finish I am expecting from Sky Moore, with the upside of being even higher with a quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes. So if you can get Sky Moore in the late rounds, I think it'll be a phenomenal, breakout type of low risk, high reward type of player. Once again, wide receiver 51 in the community, my wide receiver 47. I'm going to be trying to draft Sky Moore as much as I can. My last and final wide receiver that you should be drafting before they break out this year, which a lot of people are kind of catching up on, in my personal opinion, at least I've been hearing it, that is Rashad Bateman, wide receiver 45 on underdog right now, my wide receiver 42. And I think a lot of people are kind of catching on just purely based off of they're not believing in Zay Flowers and OBJ to really take the command here. Specifically, let's start with OBJ. OBJ tore his ACL twice. Is he going to be staying healthy? How many games can he truly play this year? Excuse me. How many games can he truly play this year? And how long is that going to last for? Right? Then you think of Zay Flowers, a rookie, really needs to get acclimated into the system. What does that look like? As much as a lot of people are not loving Zay Flowers either, because Zay Flowers is literally, as I'm recording this video, he's a wide receiver 46. So do you go with somebody that has been, on this offense for the past 2 years, understands the pace of the game, or someone that's going to maybe take it a little bit more slower, could get the yak opportunities, but the upside is not too high? I guess it all depends on how you view Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers. But right now, Rashad Bateman, the first 2 games of the season, it wasn't sexy, very minuscule type of play here. First game of the season, caught 2 out of 5 and a touchdown, over 13 fantasy points. Week 2 this past year, caught 4 out of 7 for over 108 yards and a touchdown, over 20 points, 20 fantasy points per game, or in that game. He was the wide receiver 16 in the first 2 weeks of the season, and then we saw the massive fall off of injury after that week. He missed essentially the remainder of the season. I think he played 2 or 3 other games after that and then missed the remainder of the season. What can Rashad Bateman do if he's healthy? He has the speed. He has, the route tree. He has the ability to play on the outside and the inside. That was one of our favorite things, Rashad Bateman coming out of college, is that how versatile he can be. He can be a contested catch guy. He can play the slot. He can do it all. He just needs to stay healthy. And I think the upside is there for Rashad Bateman, especially at the wide receiver 45. He has a ceiling of being a top, once again, kind of like Sky Moore, a top 30 wide receiver, even squeezing into the top 25, and then saying, hey, Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, can produce fantasy relevant wide receivers. You have to go through Mark Andrews first, but if OBJ is not on the field, he's gonna go from Mark Andrews, then to Rashad Bateman, then to Zay Flowers. I don't think it's the other way around, but obviously a lot of pathways he needs to go, a lot of hurdles he needs to overcome. But those are the type of players that I like: Rashad Bateman, Sky Moore, Elijah Moore, Jahan Dotson. And once again, comment down below. Let me know what you think of these players and who are your top wide receivers you believe are going to break out coming into the 2023 season. And as always, guys, it's all love.
Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.